Hey guys, Joshua Neal here, and today we're taking a look at The River Dragon Has Come by Nevermore. Remember, if you enjoy the lesson, be sure to click like and let me know, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates. And as always, don't forget to grab the full riff by riff transcription downstairs so you can follow along at home. Alright, let's get to it. So before we begin, we're going to need to tune our bass. Now on this record, Nevermore switched over to 7-string guitars. So they went down to a much lower tuning. They're actually in B-flat standard on this record. I'm using a 5-string in order to do this. The bass player for Nevermore, Jim Shepard, at the time, all the live footage I could find, he's using a 4-string tuned down to B-flat standard. So I chose to use a 5-string so I wouldn't have to tune down as far, but either one will work. If you're using a 5-string, all you will need to do is drop each of your strings down a half step. So instead of the standard B, E, A, D, and G, we'll take the low string down to a B flat, or A sharp, depending on your tuner. The E string will come down to an E flat or D sharp. The A string becomes an A flat or G sharp. The D string will become a D flat or a C sharp. And the G string will become a G flat or an F sharp. So just everything comes down a half step. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, or A sharp, D sharp, G sharp, C sharp, F sharp. If you're using a 4-string, you'll take your low E string all the way down to a B flat. The A would come down to an E flat, the D would go down to an A flat, and the G would go down to a D flat. So everything would actually come down a tritone. If you're going to do this, I would recommend that you string up with some heavy gauge strings or something designed for drop tuning. In lieu of that, you can also raise up your action a little bit so that the strings don't flop around as much. But if you're tuning a 4-string down, you are going to get some floppy strings and a little bit of fret buzz, but that's all right for this kind of music. So let's get into the lesson, looking at riff number 1 in the transcription. This is the opening riff, and also a riff that we come back to quite a lot. We're at only about quarter note equals 140, so we're not terribly fast on this. It's not too bad. But that main riff is going to look like this. So we're starting on the 3rd fret of the B string. I'm going to call it the B string even though we're tuned down, or if you're on a 4-string and you're actually playing on the E, I'm still going to call it a B just to keep it straight with the bass that I'm using. So we're starting on the 3rd fret of the B string, and we're going to go 3rd fret to the 1st fret, open to the 1st fret again. We'll rest for an 1/8 of a beat. Or we'll rest for an 8th rest rather. Then we've got the 1st fret again to open back to the 1st fret. So in time that would be 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and you can just lift up your finger ever so slightly to stop the string from ringing to get that mute in there, or alternately you can use the side of your right hand and just catch the string there just real quick with the right hand to stop that. So that is the first measure. Second measure is going to start on the open string. Open, 1st fret, 3rd fret to open. Then we're going to rest for half a beat. Another open, 1st fret, and open. So that second measure is 1 and 2 and rest and 4 and. So those first 2 measures all together, a combination you're going to see quite a lot is 3, 1, open, 1, 1, open, 1, open, 1, 3, open, open, 1, open. Third measure, same as the first, 3, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. And then the fourth measure is going to start the same way as the second measure. Open, 1, 3, open. But then we have this slightly different ending here. We'll grab an open, low B, and then first fret on the E string. So that last measure is open, 1, 3, open, open, 1 on the E. Or 1 and 2 and 4. So all together again we've got 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 4. First fret, fourth beat. And that gets us into riff number 2, which is the verse riff, the kind of breakdown sounding part. This one gets a little quick at points, but overall it's pretty easy because it's all going to be on the low B or the low E, depending on what bass you're using. First measure, we've got a dotted eighth on beat 1, then we've got a 16th tied into another eighth, and then another eighth, and finally a hit on beat 3. So if you're not too comfortable doing these 16th note rhythms or these dotted eighth type rhythms with things tied into it, we can think of it just as groupings of 16th notes to make it a little easier. That dotted eighth at the beginning of the measure is equal to 3 16th notes, and then the 16th note tied into the other eighth note is going to be the same length. That's also going to be the same length as 3 16th notes. The eighth note on the and of 2 equals 2 16th notes, and then we've got a staccato quarter note, and that's just a real quick hit. So as long as we're right on the beat and we cut it off, we don't have to think of that one in terms of 16th notes. So grouping it all together that way, it would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. Or if you're thinking of it in terms of vocalizing the rhythms, it would be 1 and 3. 1 and 3, or 1 E and 2 E and 3. So either way that you want to think of it, but it is it's not even eighth notes at this point anymore, so it's going to be a little off kilter, a little syncopated. After we do that, we've got an entire bar of rest while the drums and the vocals are going, or sometimes the guitar will be doing some harmonics or a quick little run here. But we're going to rest through that entire bar, and then on bar 3 of riff number 2, we've got this quick chugging 16th note rhythm, which looks like this. So breaking that down again, if you want to think of it just purely in terms of 16th notes, we've got 2 16th notes followed by a 16th rest, so that's going to be the same length as the note. A single 16th note followed by another 16th note rest, and then 3 16ths in a row followed by another staccato quarter right on beat 3. So this little chunk ends on the same beat as the previous one, the bar 1 riff. So breaking it down nice and slow, thinking of it in terms of just 16th notes, it would look like this. 1, 2, rest, 1, rest, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, rest, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, rest, 1, rest, 1, 2, 3, 1. Or if we think of it as vocalizing the rhythms again, it would be 1 E, E and 3. 1 E, E and 3. And we do want those, the 16th rest in the middle of beat 1 and in the middle of beat 2. We do want those to be actual rests. We don't want to let the bass ring out through it. So the way that I achieve this is I use my left hand to do the muting, and I actually make sure that the left hand comes down right where that 16th note would be. I'm actually subdividing the 16th notes in my head at all times. And I'll really exaggerate it so you can see that. Just like that. So putting it all together, riff number 2 would be a little slower. 1 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E, E and a 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's just going to repeat unchanging through these verses. No matter what the vocals or the guitar are doing, the bass is always going to grab these rhythms or that kind of thing. And that gets us into riff number 3, which is a little more complicated. We're actually shifting into 12/8, which means that instead of the beat being divided into 2 equal parts, we're now going to, and having an even subdivision, we're actually going to divide it into 3 equal parts. So we can think of it as still 4/4, but instead of the beat being in 2 parts, it's in triplets. So it's 4/4 with triplets. The beat itself doesn't change. That's what that, if you're looking at the transcription, that's what that quarter equals dotted quarter indicates, that the 2 beat units are going to take up the same amount of time. So the tempo itself doesn't change. It's just going to feel slightly faster because we're subdividing into triplets rather than even eighth notes. But and I'm not going to play through this one at the beginning because of how long it is and how many variations it has. We're just going to dive right into it. The first part, the first 3 measures rather, those are never going to change. It's the end of each riff, and this riff happens a total of 3 times. That's the first, second, and third ending that you're seeing in the transcription. But this ends 3 different ways. The first 3 measures are never going to change, so let's take a look at those. The first one, or the first measure rather, we're going to start on the 2nd fret of the low B string, and it's going to look like this. So it's actually the same thing twice in a row. Each half of the bar is identical. It'll be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and so 2nd fret to another 2nd fret for the first beat. The second beat, which is those 3 notes tied together or grouped together, is 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, and then we do that again. 2nd fret, 2nd, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, and rhythmically it's going to be 1, 2, E. Let me try that again. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and when I'm playing this at full speed, typically what I'm trying to do, just to keep it straight for me, is alternate my pick at all times for each triplet. So what's going to end up happening is the first triplet is going to start with a down pick. The first beat is going to start with a down pick. The second beat is going to start with an up pick, and then the third beat will start with a down pick, and the fourth beat will start with an up pick again. So if I was just playing straight triplets on this muted note here, it would look like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that can be a little confusing at first if you're not used to playing in what's called compound time, which is anything that ends in an 8, anything that's divided into triplets like that. The alternating beats are going to start with an up pick, which we're not used to if we've been playing in simple time, anything that ends in a 4 or a 2. But if you don't have to keep the pick constantly moving if you're able to do it all with downs, or just straight alternation, just letting the pick fall where it may. You can also do it that way, whichever one works for you. But that's what works for me, is just keeping the constant alternation. So every other beat is going to start on an up pick. So that's the first measure. That's also the third measure as well. It's going to be the same. The second measure has this little run in it that we'll take a look at. The first 2 beats are the same. 1, 2, and so 2nd fret, 2nd, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd. And then we have this little Phrygian mode kind of run that's having the flat 2 there. Starting on the 2nd fret, and this is going to be just straight triplets, pure triplets here. We've got 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret to the 2nd fret, on the E string back to the 5th fret on the B, and then the 3rd fret. So we're going from the 2nd fret on the B up to the 2nd fret on the E and coming back down. 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 2 on the E, 5, 3. Just like that. So that second bar altogether would be 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and if this is too much of a stretch, getting over to this 5th fret here, you can replace that 5th fret with an open E string, because we're in standard tuning, it'll all work out. So instead of, it would be 2, 3, open E, 2nd fret on the E, and then back down, open E, 3rd fret on the B. So either one would work, whichever one is easier for you. The 3rd measure again is the same as the 1st measure, and then we get into these endings, which we'll just discuss one after the other. 1st ending, we're going to come down to the 1st fret on the B string. We're going to hold that for a full beat, so a dotted quarter in this case, a full triplet. And then next beat we will have 1st fret, 1st fret, open. So far we've got 1 and 2 and that open string is just to allow us to shift up to this higher fret. The guitar is doing it as well, so I've got the bass doing it too. From that open, we're going to hop up to the 5th fret of the low string, and again, if this is too much of a reach, you can grab the open E string in its place. It's just going to be a little more difficult to get the notes clean if you're switching between an open string and a fretted note. But again, either one, whatever works for you. So right on beat 3, we are on the 5th fret, and we're doing kind of a 2 against 3 feel here. So what's going to end up happening is each of these hits is going to be held for the combined length of 2 eighth notes, and since we have 3 of them, that's going to equal 6, which is going to take up 2 beats in our compound time, our 12/8, which will finish out the measure. So we've got 5th fret for 2 eighth notes. We hop down to the 1st fret for 2 eighth notes, and then back up to the 5th fret for 2 eighth notes. So that entire second half of that measure, you could think of it purely in terms of eighth notes. So that would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or if you're thinking of it in terms of vocalizing the whole measure with the triplet counting, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that last half would be 3 and 4 and. So that whole thing together, that entire last measure, that first ending would be. And then we'll come back to the 2nd fret. We'll repeat the entire first section, and then it'll take us into the 2nd ending. And this, the bass is doing a constant eighth note kind of fill or kind of run that actually lines up with the drum fill as well. And that looks like. So a little bit mobile, but not too bad. We're going to start on the 1st fret again. Each of these endings starts on the 1st fret of the low string. We've got a triplet on that 1st fret, 1 and 2nd beat is going to be like it was in the 1st ending, and it's also going to be the same in the 3rd ending when we get there. 2 and so 2 hits on the 1st fret to the open string, and then we're going to jump up to the 5th fret again like we usually do, and we will have 2 eighth notes on the 5th fret right down to the 1st fret, 2 eighth notes on that, and then we're going to come up to the 2nd fret real quick, and I do that as a shift rather than a different finger, because the next note we need to grab is the 5th fret on the B string, and I want my pinky to be free for that. That's why I do the shift there rather than trying to go 1, 2, and then real quick up there. This one works better for me. So all together, if I was counting it out, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and or if I'm thinking of it in terms of the frets, it would be 1 1 1 1 1 0 5 5 1 1 2 5, and at speed it's something like. And that takes us back into the top of riff number 3 again, and this time we'll be taking the 3rd ending, which again is going to start on the 1st fret of the low string. We'll hit the 1st fret, but we'll also grab the very last 8th note of beat 1. So it would be 1 into beat 2, which is going to be the same as it was for the other endings. 1st fret, open. 2 and then ending number 3 is going to end the same as number 1. It'll be 5th fret for 2 8th notes to the 1st fret for 2 8th notes, and then the 5th fret for 2 8th notes again. So ending number 3 altogether would be 1 2 and 3 and 4 and instead of. So it's almost identical to ending number 1. We're just adding that extra 8th note on the 1st fret at the end of beat 1. So all together, I'll put riff number 3 at this point. I'll put it all together with all of the endings a little bit slower, just so you can see how it breaks down. But luckily this one does not change. Every time this riff comes back, it's always these 3 endings, always in this order. So once we get this one down, we don't have to worry about learning any extra little fills. We'll have it. So starting from the top, I'll take all 3 endings in order, the way that they would be played in the song. So starting up on that 2nd fret, we've got here's the fill, ending 1, back to the top. Here's the thing, ending 2, back to the top. Here's the run, ending 3. Just like that, and that goes right into riff number 4, which you can also think of as riff number 1A. It's just a little variation on the main riff, riff number 1. The first 2 measures are going to be the same, and then it's actually those 2 measures again. So really the only difference is, rather than ending on that 1st fret of the E string like we did, we're going to repeat the end of bar 2 in riff number 1, which would, those first 2 measures again are 3 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 3 0 0 1 0. So we would just play that twice. We would not go up to the 1st fret on the E string. So riff number 4 altogether would look like 3 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 3 0 0 1 0 3 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 3 0 0 1 0. So pretty straightforward. And again, that goes right into riff number 5. This is the chorus, if you want to call it that, the River Dragon Has Come part. And that's got a lot of cool little melodic shapes that the bass gets to do. The bass gets to have a little shining moment for a second. But we're going to start on the 3rd fret of the E string, or the 3rd fret of your 2nd to last string. So it might be your A string if you're playing this on a 4 string. We'll start on the 3rd fret there, up to the 5th fret of the A string, to the 5th fret of the D, and back down to the 5th fret of the A. So we've got this little power chord shape that we see an awful lot. And rhythmically, it's 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. And then in the next bar, the chord actually goes up to this 5th fret here, this A, or this A flat, but instead of starting on the root again, the bass actually starts on the 5th here. So you're actually coming from the 5th fret of the A string just right up to the 7th fret, and that starts on beat 1 on the 7th fret. Then we've got, so just bouncing between the 7th fret of the A and the D string. 1, 2, and then real quick we have to hop down to the 1st fret of the E string, and it'll be 1st fret to the 3rd fret. So that second measure in number 5 is 1, 2, and 4, and then it's going to end with the first part of riff number 1 or riff number 4. So putting it all together, the first part of riff number 5 would be 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4, and. And then into the second part of riff number 5, it's going to start the same way, starting on the 3rd fret of the E. 1, 2, and 4. And then we're going to hop down to the 2nd fret of the E string. And we'll have 2nd fret to the 4th fret. So we're doing that 5th again, that power chord shape. Up to the 4th fret, and then we have a little turnaround here where we go 2nd fret, open, 2nd fret. And rhythmically, that's 1, 2, and 4, and you may notice I shift from using my 1st finger on the 2nd fret to the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret. And the reason I do that is so we can go back into that main riff. And this is going to be the second half of riff number 1, the one that ends with the 1st fret on the E string. So putting that second half of number 5 together, it would look like this. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4, and. And that would take us back into riff number 2. Alright, so the next new riff we need to look at is number 6, and this is the riff right at the beginning of the solo, where the guitar is doing all the tapping before he gets into the diminished arpeggios. But this is going to jump up to the E string or the A string if you're using a 4-string and you've tuned way down. It's going to be your second to last string, whatever it happens to be. But we'll start with that, and we're going to hold that for 3.5 beats total. That's what that dotted half note is if you're looking at the transcription. That takes up 3.5 beats. And then from here we're going to slide into, or really it's not a slide from a specific note. He's just kind of glissing into the 7th fret of the A string. And he does it about on the end of 4, perhaps a little bit before. It's not really rhythmically distinct. It doesn't start from a specific point, and it doesn't necessarily start on a specific beat, but the goal is to get up to that 7th fret. So just to make it a little bit easier, we're thinking of it as being on the and of 4. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and up to the 7th fret. And then he holds that for, again, not really rhythmically distinct, but he's going to hold that 7th fret on the A string for about 2 beats, and then he just slides down without reattacking, just kind of gets the note out of there for effect. So altogether, those first two measures would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't necessarily cut off after beat 2. It's just he holds it for 2 beats and then he starts sliding out of it. On beat 3, or measure 3 rather, we're going to hit that open E string again. And we're going to hold it again for 3.5 beats. This part is rhythmically accurate in the bass. So these ones you would definitely want to grab at the right time. Starting on that open E, we're going to hold that for 3.5 beats. Coming in on the and of 4, we're going to grab the 8th fret of the A string. And we're going to hold that for a beat and a half. Hop down to the 8th fret of the E string. We'll hold that again for a beat and a half. And then we're going to go to the 5th fret on the A string. And we're going to hold that also for a beat and a half. So that second part, measures 3 and 4 of riff number 6 in time would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, and then you would go back to the top. So all together, back to the top of the riff. So all together, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, and back into it. And that gets us into riff number 7. This is the bass part underneath the solo where the guitar player is doing all the constant diminished arpeggios. We're actually hooking up with the rhythm guitar here. And this it's a little quick in the right hand, but there's not a whole lot to do in the left hand, so it shouldn't be too bad. We're going to start on the 2nd fret of the low string, and we're going to have 2 beats of constant 16th notes followed by just a quick hit on beat 3. So slowing that down, it's 1 E and 2 E and 3. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. And remember, for these quick chugging kind of riffs, you want to stay very relaxed. Make sure you have a good grip on the pick, but not too tight, so your fingers don't get exhausted and you'll start to lose the pick. And if you are using your fingers for this part, you'll either need to get accustomed to using your 3 fingers in succession, like Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse, or you go for the Cliff Burton pretend pick with your fingers, that kind of thing, if you're using your fingers. If you're using a pick like Jim Shepard does, just make sure you stay relaxed and have a good but not too good grip on the pick. So that's the first measure of number 7. We're going to rest for the next bar, and then we're going to have the exact same thing again on the 2nd fret. And then after that, we're going to rest for another bar. So all together in the beginning of number 7, the first line of number 7, we've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to do the exact same rhythms. We're just going to take the 2nd fret down to the 1st fret of the low string. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that goes right into number 7A. This is functionally the same as riff number 7. We just add a little bit of bass motion, a little bit of kind of solo bass motion. Going to start the same way. On the 2nd fret of the low string, we'll have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, just like we did before. But then we're going to add this little fill here on the 2nd fret of the B string and the 3rd fret of the E string. And 1, and 3, and 4. And that would repeat again for the second half of the first line. So altogether, that first section is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Then, just like we moved the 16th note thing down to the 1st fret, we're going to take this entire 2nd fret, 3rd fret riff that we've been doing, and we're going to move that whole thing down to the 1st fret. So the second half would be on the 1st fret, 1E and a 2E and a 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, up to the 2nd fret on the E string, and then you do the same thing again. 1E and a 2E and a 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that gets us to riff number 8. This is the end of the solo, and this is possibly the most difficult part of the song because it's just constant 16th notes. We're lining up exactly with the double kick drum with the drummer, but thankfully it doesn't move around too much. It's going to stay mostly in one spot. So we'll start on the low open B string, and we'll have a full beat of 16th notes, and then the next beat we're going to split in half. We will have 2 16th notes on the low B string, and then we're going to go up to the octave B. So I'm choosing to do it on the 7th fret of the E string, so I don't have to jump across 2 strings at this speed. Coming up to the 7th fret of the E string. So that second beat is 2, E, and So 2 16th notes on the low string, 2 on the E string, and then the rest of the bar as well as the next bar are going to be all on the 7th fret of the E string. So that first half of number 8, that first line of number 8 altogether is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... For the second half of the riff, you're going to replace that low open string with a 7th fret on the low string. But rhythmically, it's going to be the same. It's a full beat of that 7th fret, 1 E and then 2 E, the first 2 16th notes in beat 2, up to, again, the 7th fret of the E string, and then finish out the bar as well as the next bar with all 7th fret. So that second half, that the third bar and the first ending in riff number 8 is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... So putting that all together, top of riff number 8 through the first ending, we've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... From there we would go back to the top of that. We'd play through the first 3 bars again. So we'd have the and the... But instead of continuing through that final bar on the 7th fret, we're actually going to shift back into 12/8 for a second, and that's going to get us back into the pre-chorus riff, the type of riff. So we are still going to end up on the 7th fret of the B string. It's just not going to be constant 16th notes. Rhythmically, it's... So we're, again, back into a triplet feel. We've got 1 and So catching the first and the third 8th note of that first beat. 1 and Then we're going to hold that through beat 2, and then actually not necessarily through beat 2. During beat 2 is when we're going to do this big slide. We're actually going to slide up an octave. So if we're on the 7th fret of the E string in order to get the octave, we're going to add 12, so we would end up on the 19th fret, which for me is basically the end of the bass. If you have a 24 fret bass, it will probably be a little easier to get up there. But regardless, we're going to end up on the 19th fret. 1 and 2 and make sure we end up on the 19th fret right at the top of beat 3. And then we're just going to pick 2 triplets in a row. 3 and 4 and on the 19th fret. So altogether, that second ending would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we have to real quick hop down to the second fret. So you may want to use the last beat of that triplet or the last 2 beats of that triplet to start coming down so that you can make it back to the second fret in time for the pre-chorus. Just like that. Or if you're quick enough and you can finish out the triplets and make it all the way down, go for it either way. And finally, the last thing that we need to look at is riff number 9. It's also could be thought of as riff number 5A. This is just an alternate riff for the chorus. The very last time we go through the chorus before we end the song, it's slightly different. The first line, however, is going to be the same. So that's all the same. And then in the past choruses, we've gone from the 3rd fret thing to the 2nd fret. And we'll do that for the first half of the last chorus, but the very last half of the chorus where the vocals start getting really, really high, we're going to have that little variation on it. But again, the first part of the second half, as confusing as that is, the first part of the second half is going to be the same. And then instead of going down to the 2nd fret in the second half, we're actually going to do the 3rd fret shape to that 7th fret little cell again. Exactly the same as it was before. And then this ending is just based on that main riff, except with more space in it. So we've got 3, 1, 0, 1, and then we leave out the other couple eighth notes down here. We rest for 2 beats, and then open, 1, 3, open. So those last 2 bars again would be 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and. There it is, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you did, be sure to click like and let me know. You can also leave a comment, and I do my best to get back to all of those. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates. And again, don't forget to grab the full riff by riff transcription so you can practice at home. And until next time,